For the large part, I try and stay away from Twitter. This is partly because in order to be successful on Twitter, you've got to be a disingenuous fuck. And that's not entirely the fault of people who are successful on Twitter. It's also combined with the fact that Twitter, you get a couple of lines to make your point. It's very difficult to make eloquent arguments in a few lines. So virtually everything that ever appears on Twitter in terms of what is meant to be an argument is a straw man or something like that. It also attracts cancer. And so this is actually this is an exchange that I had with someone earlier on Twitter. And it starts off, I had had these people telling me that I was going woke and opposing the very thing that I had opposed years earlier. And this was my response. Let's be real. What happened to George Floyd is a real issue. Having the police strangling a man in handcuffs in the street is not some minor slight or microaggression. Having the system react with a meh of indifference to this act, until the actual riot is not a minor concern. Which I think is about right. I mean, we're not talking microaggressions or incorrect use of pronouns here or anything like that. The guy was killed by the police in the middle of the street whilst people tried to prevent it, and they did it anyway. To which someone asks what could be the honest, genuine question. It is, but what is your solution? So I give him what I think is my solution to this, which is... Where's my solution to this? There we go. Stage 1. Don't threaten to dominate and imprison people who have a legitimate grievance. Acknowledge the failure and the scope of the problem. Well, the key bit that I'm getting at there is the police had the evidence, and their reaction was not to arrest them, but to fire them. That was the appropriate thing for them to do under those circumstances. Nah, at that point, it's a systemic problem. You can't say it's a few bad apples if it goes all the way up. Anyway, so yeah, you've got to acknowledge there was actually a problem here, and it was a systemic problem. Then you've got to enact some sort of legislation to make sure that it can't happen again. Yeah, this isn't some sort of genius, great plan. This is the most simple form of conflict resolution. That if you've got a genuine source of conflict, the first thing you've got to do is sort of say, acknowledge that there was maybe a mistake here, and then you've got to make steps to try and fix it. And then I close with sadly not seeing anything like this in the USA at the moment. To which someone replies, remember Gamergate? How did acknowledging the problem work out then? And this is what I mean, right? So where's remember Gamergate? How did acknowledging the problem work out then? Really? You're comparing hurt feelings in Gamergate to a handcuffed man being asphyxiated in the street by the police. And it really is. I mean, this wasn't a sort of isolated incident, nor is this guy, he's got 400 followers or something. And, what can you say? I mean, it's things like this is why I really try and stay off Twitter. And, so today on Twitter, I was actually looking at some of the footage from the riots, because some of it is just so outrageous. And one of them, it was some old guy who is obviously having trouble walking. He's walking along with a cane, and the riot police go up and basically shoulder barge him. And it's like the guy can barely stand up, and he just, he's knocked over by a sack of potatoes. I wouldn't be surprised. At that sort of age, this is basically broken hip, which, for an old person means that you got about 25% chance of dying. Anyway, and completely unjustified. Why does a man in full riot gear with a shield and a bat on need to be, kicking over or shoving over some old geezer who can barely walk? It wasn't like there was some great crowd nearby. I think they were, you can't be in the street. And there's unsettling stuff on both, on both sides. There's a lot of unsettling stuff out there. And, there's some unsettling stuff from the people rioting, and there's some unsettling stuff from the police. The thing is that the police are meant to be there to preserve the peace, safeguard the public trust, all that sort of thing. And that's really not what comes across with a lot of this. They're out of control. And a lot of the video that you see looks more like the sort of thing, it's clearing Tiananmen Square. All right, they're not into live fire yet, but they're certainly getting remarkably trigger happy with their pepper bullets, which I've got to look into sometime. There are certainly peaceful protests out there that are being treated, like people are happy. Great, now's my chance to break out my riot gear and bust some heads. And it's like, it's not really what the police should be there for. Anyway, so, this just fully reminded me of why you will live a longer and happier life if you don't spend too much time on Twitter. I don't know. Maybe I ought to stick to puppies or something. At least, Twitter, bad place to go if you don't want to be reminded of the most most subtle and gross elements of facets of mankind. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Ciao.